Smoky Mountains are right here. You're up here in Massachusetts. The Smokies are right there in Tennessee, and this is where this lady grew up. So this story is actually, this story that she's going to sing is a true story about her as she was growing up. Not right now. When she was very young, she was very poor. She didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of possessions. They were living up in the Smoky Mountains, so they did not have a lot of possessions. So this is very cool. You're going to hear her read this, sing this song. And it was so popular.
Back through the years, I go wandering once again. Back to the seasons of my youth. And I recall box of rags someone gave us. And how my mama put those rags to use. Now there were rags of many colors, but every piece was small. And I didn't have a coat, and it was way down in the fall. Mama sewed the rags together, so I never pleased with love. She made my
all the good qualities in life, that it's important to who you are and what you are. And if you're rich, rich is not money. It's what your heart is like. So this is a true story. And this story, in the story, it's going to talk to you about a wood stove. Who knows what a wood stove? You should already know that from our studies. What's a wooden stove?
A wooden stove.
She talked about in the song, and they're also going to learn in the rag code, is scraps. And that is just leftover pieces of material. Like we talked about making quilts. Remember we talked about how that if the mother, say for example your shirt was worn out, and say you had a hole in the arm, Mom would take the good part and cut it into little pieces so that it could be put into a quilt. Right? Do you remember us talking about that?
Yeah.
So that's what is meant by scraps, or leftovers, or pieces. Or if your mom made you a dress, there might be pieces around that were left over that were not actually used in the dress or the shirt. So those are scraps. And the song talks about the scraps that someone gave the mother. Patches. It talks about patches. Does anybody know what a patch is? It's a way to repair your clothing. Does anyone know? Okay. So by Lauren Mills. And notice what she has on. That's a picture of the coat. It looks very similar to the Dolly Parton coat, right? It's made out of little scraps. Notice that this is a square, and this is a triangle, and a rectangle, and little tiny squares. They're all different colors, they're different shapes, they're different sizes, and this is what's called a patchwork version of church, but never got the chance to talk very much. I knew I would love school, even though I was put in the front row with the youngest ones, and Clyde Bradshaw whispered that it was because I was dumb. Then Shane Miller Hunter pulled my braid, and Susan Miller and I asked the teacher too many questions, but our teacher, Miss Campbell, smiled at me and said, "Smart people are the ones that ask lots of questions."
Do they learn the same thing?
They learn a lot of the same things that you learn, maybe from different books and maybe different ideas, because remember, they lived in a different time. So in our school, we would talk about how to use computers. They didn't have computers back then. What did they do?
Ignore.
They ignored it, and they had to forgive in order to do that, right? They had to forgive those people that were being mean and not retaliate and do what God wanted to do. That's the priority. The important thing is that they finish that wall, because that's what God wanted them to do. In our story, it was important that her father said, people are what's important. People are what's important. So we're going to shift into that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about quilts. Okay? This one shows you, this is a friend of mine's quilt that she is making for her son. And I wanted to show you how it's put together. And I have to lay it down to be able to see it. Notice, I will let you touch it in a minute, okay? See the top? And in a minute I'll show you the whole thing. Her son likes to hunt. So he chose a pattern that has deer on it, because he likes to go deer hunting. So, and then the leaves on the side looks like you're out in the woods. These are the pieces. This is a piece, this is a piece, that's a piece, and this is a piece. In the center is this right here. See how it's put together? The top is pieces, this is the lining, and this is the back side. This, isn't that cool? All right. So let me show you the whole quilt. I don't want it to drag the floor. Isn't that neat? Like that. Now, isn't that neat? You guys, I'll show it to you in a moment. Now this one has a backing that looks like this. Each one of these is a piece. Listen, this you can feel. It's polyester. It's made out of it's a synthetic fabric, and it's easier to use than cotton. It lasts longer than cotton. This is what's called a cutter, a rotary cutter. Girls, I will not pass this around because it's a knife. It's actually quite sharp, so I'm not going to pass it around. But the way it is, you would lay your fabric, see the lines? This is like a ruler. You would lay it on it, and then take a ruler. Pass it on, please. Like this. You would take the ruler on top of the guys. That means you got to use a ruler and got to measure and make it perfect. So when you guys have to put these pieces together, this is a paper quilt, okay? So it doesn't have batting in because it's a pretend quilt. It's not the real thing. But we wanted to do this to give you a chance to make your own part of your quilt. So each one of you will get one of these. Doesn't matter which way you go because it's a perfect square, okay? All the sides are the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a quilt that are memories of 2017 to 2018. That's the about. Yes?
Valentine's Day party.
Valentine's Day party, absolutely. That would be something we did in our class. Valentine's party. What are some other things? Right now, that's another way of telling a story. What are we making? A memory quilt, right? So this is another way of telling a story. Is telling a story with the book. Each patch of cloth had a what happened or what was exciting about that event or that day. So make it exciting to tell your story of your special event. Press it down for just hold it for just a few seconds. Can you hold it? Just press it down. We'll get the next one ready.